Your turn, Yugi boy.
What is up, guys? This is Linthio coming at you with a updated version of my Skull Servant deck profile, as well as a slight tournament report. So I went to YCS Prague with this and got this lovely token. I'm going to try and collect as many as them as possible just because I love it. But yeah, so this is going to be quite a long video, if I'm completely honest, because I want to go through and talk a lot about the choices and everything like this, because I feel that this is one of the most excuse me, consistent versions of the build. So without further ado, we are going to get straight into it. So as I said, I'm going to be going through and talking about just some of the actual choices, but yeah, so to start us off, obviously we have three of the Skull Servants. King himself. He's just a beast, you know, you have to run him at 3 if you want to play this deck, otherwise you're not doing it right. So some of these I'll just skip over quickly because they make sense. 3 Lady in the White. This card is pretty goddamn good, not only having a big booty with 2 to defense, but also the fact that it's a main combo piece being used with Unizombie for a level 3 synchro plays and all that, because it's very useful for that. And also you can special summon it with White Mare if you have it banished, which you most likely will, and also it's a target for White Prince, so very important card for the deck. Next up we have the 2 White Prince and the 2 Skull Servant. Now, I actually put the Ultras in the, wherever they went, I put them in another folder and put in the commons because they just stack. Like, Ultras just stack so much, they keep coming into my opening hands. Funnily enough, in the tournament, which I did X3 on, 3 wins, 3 losses, and then I just dropped because I wanted to chill. A lot of the time it was down to the side deck because I had a horrible thing, but I'll talk about that in a bit. But it's really annoying when you draw this card. It really is. And it almost makes me want to put White Prince in at 3. Because I want to see this more than I want to see this, especially with the certain cards that I'm running. So maybe I might test White Prince out at 3. I've always been an advocate of 2 and 2, simply because it means that I can keep the combo pieces down as much as possible. Don't need to open up to any dead draws and such, but I don't know, maybe I might test it back at 3. Originally I had 3 and 3, then I went down to 2 and 2, so maybe a 3 and a 2 might actually work out. For this build, I ran 2 White Mare, and honestly, I don't know if I saw it as much as I wanted to. It's pretty much a given that you're going to be getting White Prince's effect off. It's also pretty much a given that you're going White Prince. It's pretty much a given that you're going to be special summoning King out, and you're going to have banished cards in your banish zone. So White Mare is always a good card to draw because you can special out the King, or you can special out if King is banished, for example, or the Lady or anything like that. And at worst case, it's an extra 1,000 in the grave. But there are such tight constraints in this main deck when I was testing it that I had to cut it down to 2. And honestly, I think I need it at 3. 2 was alright, but I felt that at times I could have seen other things better. I could have seen this when other cards weren't so useful. So yeah, I'm going to have to really go back to test that pretty hard. Next up, 3 Unizombie. Don't really need to say too much about this because the card's amazing. You need this. If you could run more, I would. So that's pretty much standard. Same with the 3 Mizuki. Card is just insane. The amount of plays you can do with this card. Recycling it with Omega is pretty disgusting. And even with the Shinryo level 6, to recycle it as well is pretty good. So again, this is one of the cards that if you could run more of, I would. Next up, the 1 Mathematician. Often enough, I found myself siding this card out, and it's a nice Foolish on legs, and it has a nice effect, but I don't know the pros and cons of actually having it in the deck. I mean, it's a really nice turn 1 play. If you don't have a Unizombie, or you want to keep a hold of a Unizombie, maybe you've got both of these in hand, a Mathman's a nicer play because it means that your opponent's a bit more scared to give you that extra draw, so they might try and play around it or spin it or whatever. Or they may just go balls to the walls and you get an extra draw. So Mathman's just one of those cards that's really different. Debris Dragon, card's brilliant. I used it multiple times in the tournament, so that's quite nice. I don't really need to say too much about it, it's just really good. So going on to the spells, we have 3 Upstart. So the whole reason for Upstart was because I played this card. I wanted to see this card as early as possible, which I'll get to in a sec. Upstart Goblins were just really nice, and it just helped with the consistency, honestly. Like, sometimes I considered siding them out, but because of my side deck was so weird, I need to see the combo pieces. So the upstart was actually quite nice, and the fact that you do have king that can just obliterate your opponent in pretty short attacks, the upstarts are quite nice. So I'm keeping them in for now, but we will see how it goes in the future. Next up, 3 mass change, the seconds. Now, important with this card, the reason why I wanted to run this, because obviously of Darklaw. Darklaw is just such an incredible card, and honestly, it ruins the meta at times. So, not being able to give your opponent the graveyard because you're banishing everything. When they search, you, excuse me, take a card out of their hand. It's just so good, and honestly, this card for me was always a side deck card. But right now, in this format, you go against Pepe. They search a lot of stuff. If you have a blowout card, everything goes to the graveyard, so they can't get it back. Monarchs desperately need their graveyard. You know, there's just so many cards that, or so many decks, sorry, right now that are running around. And also, BA with Beatrice coming out in gold are going to be a bigger deck too. This card and Darklaw is just so good. And the fact that you discard a lot with this, you could discard your Mizukis, you can discard your White Prince, anything like that. It's just really, really solid. And first turn, multiple times, I would go use Unizombie and basically just finish the turn and then set the mass change if I had it. A couple of times, and one very funny time, my opponent went first and really didn't really do much. I summoned Unizombie in effect and they Veiled, and I mass changed too. And they weren't very happy because not only did I have a Darklaw and then a White Prince that I discarded from my hand, I sent another White Prince and then summoned Kingal. So I had Darklaw and King on 3k, which is really, really nice. So mass change 2 was a card that really helped and was really, really decent. And especially you'll see a couple of other cards in the deck that Darklaw worked well with. But yeah, so I actually wouldn't change this. I would keep it at 3 because it's just such a blowout play, and just from nothing you can have so many good monsters. Twin Twister, standard card. The card's amazing right now, so there's no reason not to run Twin Twister. I kind of wanted to run a third in the extra deck, but I'll go on to a discussion about my extra deck and the reason why, all that stuff in a minuto. 1 Allure standard. I'm playing Darks, give me more Allures. Foolish Burial, give me more Foolish Burials. I'll always play this at maximum. If it's at 3, I'll play 3. But obviously that isn't going to happen. But yeah, Foolish is a great card. Burial, again, this is another card that I think should not be at 1. It should be at more. And I also picked up another DT one at the weekend too, which was really nice. So yeah, but going on to the traps, the final traps, we have 2 Solemn Strike. Card was amazing, won me games, and just incredible defense as well. I don't really need to say too much about it. It's a Solemn Strike. So, yeah, if you can afford them, play them. Then we have 2 Deck Devastation Virus. Now, this card was kind of also why I wanted to run Darklaw and the mass changes. So, multiple times I would set up in this way if I was going first. I would Unizombie, and if I had a White Prince in hand, I would ditch Unizombie from hand and Unizombie from deck. Then I would say bring out a king, and if I had a mass change, I would use all of these type of things. So I normally finish my field with a king on at least 2k and also a Darklaw. Opponent's turn, flip this. If you use this against Pepe, which I did, I hit 5 cards in their hand first turn, and they're all banished. You basically auto-win at that point. There is no 2 ways about it. And also just even with the deck dev and banishing as well, just the combo with the actual Darklaw is just so brutal and so good. So that is why deck dev is good. I also ran a third in the extra deck. That's how good this card is right now in my opinion. Monarchs is a bit meh. You need to play it at the right time, and also depending on the build you go against. If it's the Quantum Monarchs, not really that great. You can side them out. But if it's the normal Monarchs when they're using the babies, pretty goddamn good. Pepe, really amazing. So it all depends on what deck you're going against. But this card I felt was just so good right now that I needed to run it at 2 in the main deck. Next up with the 1 Eradicator. Again, I don't know why this is at 1. I really don't. I actually was like, I need to get more Eradicators. And then like, oh wait, it's at 1. So why would I? Eradicator, really good card. I used it against a few people. In fact, I only used it against 1. That was deck devs that I used. But yeah, 1 which was nice. But yeah, I didn't really see it that much. But something to note as well, worst case, the deck dev is useful with Darklaw because you can distribute Darklaw as well. So yeah, and also, you'll see in a little bit. 2 Call the Haunteds. Now, the idea behind the Call the Haunted was to use the reuse the Dark Law. So Dark Law was always nice, and also just for the kings and uni-zombies, excuse me, and everything like that. Call the Haunted worked alright. It's basically Call the Haunted is a card that you would expect. With Twin Twister running around, I was a little scared that the fact that this might be actually just abused. And I don't really have any cards that can be chains if they, for example, this face down, they Twin Twist it. By the way, this is only for the Europeans, not the Americans, because the ruling in America has to resolve in place. But if they like Twin Twisted my back row, I could chain this, and there wasn't really anything apart from White Prince that I could get back and use the effect with. So yeah, Call the Haunted was yeah, it was alright. I made a lot of synchro plays, and I could get them back, but more often than not, it was kind of a game-winning card, because I would just show them the Call the Haunted, and yeah, something like that. But it's a nice card. I briefly played around with, Powerful Rebirth, but it was just one of those that I'm like, it completely depends. It really, really does depend which you prefer. I might test out Powerful Rebirth once again, but we will see. So yeah, the 2 Call Haunters were alright. If anything in this build so far, these will be taken out for whatever else you want. The 1 Vanity's Emptiness, it's just a brutally good card, and I don't see any reason not to run it. And then finally, the 1 Solemn Warning. Solemn Warning is just an absolutely incredible card. This was the one card I never really sided out. The Solemn Strikes I did side out at times, depending on the matchup, but yeah, the Warning was just so brutal, it had to be done. So going on to the extra deck with my pretty little extra deck sleeves here that I picked up a while ago. So starting us off, the 1 Trishula. I summoned it once, and I misplayed. So I was playing it against a Monarch player, and it was the 2nd or 3rd game. I basically summoned Trish on him, and I pretty much had the game in hand. He had the Prime Monarch face up in defense position, the trap, and also a back row. If I had just banished the actual monster, then he wouldn't have been able to do anything with the actual trap, because in the back row was also another Prime Monarch. And it was just so annoying, because I was like, oh, I could have won that game so easily if I had just chosen the right thing. But I was wondering, I was like, he had a really weird build with some back row, and I was thinking, is this a back row that's going to hurt me or something like that? So I needed to, but not a lot of people are running battle traps. So yeah, that was a bad play on my part. But you live and learn. So yeah, but Trishula is just absolutely incredible, and I don't think I'll ever like take it out. 1 Beals, good against Rogue. And just in general, it's not too shabby. It's nice against Cosmo, if I'm completely honest, because they can't really pop it or do anything to it. So it's nice. Void Ogre was a really nice card as well. This card's always going to be good in this type of deck. Really easy to summon it out. And yeah, just in general, solid. I did use it, and it won me games, and it scared Monarch players as well. Omega, this card single-handedly won me a game, and basically kept me in a lot of games. So round 2, I believe it was, 2 or 3, I went against a Volcanic player, and this card won me the game. It didn't win me the game, but essentially won me the game, because it just kept me in the duel. Whenever he tried to do anything, I was like, nope, banish, take a card out of your hand, and also just recycling my own Mizukis were also keeping me in the game too. So, yeah, Omega is just an insane card, and honestly, I may or may not bump it up to 2. It all depends. With the new the new zombies, the Shinrayos of the I can never pronounce what they are because I haven't really looked into them all too much. But yeah, this card will be at 2 in that build. Speaking of which, there is the Sage card that came out is insane, which I can't wait for that. Next up, the Skylight, never used it, but it's still a great card. Crimson Blader, never used it. The idea behind this was get wrecked Monarchs and get wrecked Pepe for their Ignista plays. It just meant that I could hold them back a little bit. But yeah, it's also just great against Rogue in general. 1 Black Rose, didn't use it surprisingly, but it's Black Rose. It's a standard card, you need to use it. The 1 Yazzie, did use it. Great cards, can't target it. It's just really, really nice. Clearwing, again, Monarchs, you just like Clearwing it. If they don't have the out and they're trying to use their own effects, then yep, great. Meteor Burst Dragon, really good card against things like Cosmo. It can be summoned with Debris and a Lady, so that's why I have it there. All of the level 7s apart from Yazzie I can do with that. Samurai Saga is very interesting one. It's not a generic. You need a level 1... sorry, not level 1. You need a zombie tuner and a non-zombie tuner. And... try that again. You need a zombie tuner and a non-zombie tuner. No, I was right the first time. And basically his main effect is... you will shuffle a banished monster in your banished zone into the deck and then switch all monsters on your opponent's side of the field whose attack is equal to or less that to defense position. So you can use it during either play turn. It's just really nice to recycle my own Mizukis and different things like that. 2/5 isn't a terrible attack as well, so it's really nice. I wish it was hollow because common in this extra deck's a bit weird, but you know, first world ego problems. And then Dragon of Rebirth actually used this against Monarch player, and it stalled me so long because he just didn't want to give me any of his own monsters because this is a monster reborn on its own, so it's really nice. Next up, as you would expect, we have the 2 Darklaw and the 1 Anki. So I think I need to talk about these for quite a bit. So the 2 Darklaw and the 1 Anki. I originally had 3 Darklaw. Completely forgot that Anki existed. Now, Darklaw is obviously the better monster than Anki. Anki's not too terrible. You destroy a monster by battle and send it to the graveyard. You can get a mass change from your graveyard to your hand. So it's pretty good, but I can't obviously use the mass change with Anki itself because it needs to be a higher level, and obviously Anki is level 8, so can't bring out Darklaw. The plus side with Anki is that it can be used with both viruses. It can be used with Deck Devastation virus and also Epidemic Eradicator virus because it is a 2/8, and Eradicator EEV needs a 2/5 or higher, which Darklaw isn't. So that's just something interesting that is to know. It's a bit of flexibility depending on what you draw. But yeah, so the Darklaws are just insane in this deck. A lot of people call it Danklaw, but Darklaw is still one of the most insane monsters around. If you use it right, if you play it right, the fact it's a quick play, you can bring it out in your opponent's turn. Oh dear God, this card is so good. And I never looked back playing it. Now, back in the day, I did used to play Darklaw, but it always depends on the format. And it was always a sided card, but right now, it's a main deckable card, in my opinion, especially in this version. So Darklaw, just insane. If you can run it, do it, because it's totally worth it. So that is the extra deck. So the side deck, I have a few cards, but the main engine I'll tell you about in a sec. So the one Time Wizard, any big tournament I go to, I have to run my mint first edition Metal Raider Ultra Time Wizard. I didn't actually side it in because against Monarchs I was like, well, if you have the continuous spell, this is pointless. And against Cosmo I was like, I don't particularly want to give you like, you know, your effects. If I think its destruction effect can be useful, I'll put it in. But yeah, I always run it as just a point in case. 3 Effect Veiler for the side. Effect Veiler was just a great card. I sided it in once, I think, but never saw them. So yeah, Effect Veiler it's just always a good card. I couldn't fit it into the main, so yeah. The 3rd Deck Devastation virus, which is just really nice, and I'm so happy I've got 3 ulti firsts. And then the other card, which was Crush Card Virus, this would just depend on what deck I would go up against, but Crush Card is just a good one as well. So, the little engine is... the stupid engine that I had in my side deck was basically 3 Vanities Emptiness, 3 Majesty's Fiend... 3 Vanities Fiends, 3 Majesty's Fiends, and 3 Monarch Stormforth. So at the event in Prague on the it would have been the Friday night, my TO Michael Rosa was talking to me and he was saying, "What about this stun engine?" And I was like, "No, this sounds like a terrible idea. Why are you telling me about it?" And he was like, "No, just listen. You know, you can special summon monsters out. It's not too terrible if you get draws and all that." And I was like, "Okay, well." I was like, you know what, I'm just having fun at this event anyway, so I'll just do it. So the rest of the side deck, so this was 6 cards, the rest of the side deck was 3, 3, and 3, and yeah, I lost games because of it. So I actually did, in all fairness, win 1 game with, 2 games, sorry, with the actual side deck, because against the Volcanic player, he had Doomfire out, and I only had Omega, and I was like, I need an out, and I had 2 Majesty's Fiends in hand. In last turn of time, I was 100 life points down. I drew into the Stormforth, so that was pretty disgusting. And then also against the Cosmo player, who I beat 2-0 in 10 minutes. That was pretty impressive, even for myself. I basically had a pretty terrible hand, and he had 3 set back row. I set a lady, and a set of warnings. So I was like, well, I've got the warning, so hopefully I can be alright. He just set a 4th back row and ended, and I drew into the Vanity's Fiend. So I went for it, balls to the wall, tributed the lady for the Vanity's Fiend, and his face dropped, and I was like, I know I've got this game now. He had no outs whatsoever. He ended up drawing 6 cards off Cosmotown, and I think he had about 8 turns, and it turned out that his only out was Skill Drain, and I had the Vanity, and I had the Twin Twister in hand anyway for the out, because I wasn't scared of any of the back row, so I didn't see any reason to set the Twin Twister. But yeah, it was quite funny because he ended up having to set a Maxi, a Skullmeester, which he sided in, and also then a Farm Girl to try and keep himself alive. And you know that's bad when you have to set a Farm Girl. But yeah, that was the side engine, the little engine that we came up with, and you know it didn't work at all in my opinion. I would have sided Majesty's Fiends anyway, because Vanity's Fiends, because I can bring it out, but the fact that I had 6 other cards that went with that engine, it was just bad, and it bricked. It bricked multiple times. At times as well, I had 4 of the cards in hand for the Majesties, for the Fiends in hand, and I couldn't do anything with them. So if I actually had a proper side deck, I think I could have done better in the tournament than going 3-3, because as I said, this is a pretty consistent build, and I'm really happy with how it's going. There's a couple of things that I would tweak, but it's been really, really good for me, to be honest, and it just cements how much I love this deck, and I just can't wait for more support to come out, direct and indirect. What this deck really needs is a monster that, like a lady type monster, that can really help protect you from monster effects, because that's the big thing. Being destroyed, like Dark Destroyer just coming out and popping, that is a thing that can happen, and you have to rely on back row to actually keep you alive and also negate or anything like that from those type of scenarios. So that is it, guys. I want to know what you guys think of the deck. It is a bit of a different build from what I've done in previous times, but I am really happy with it. The mash change is really nice. What I might do is up a certain amount of discard cards, but there is a very fine line of trying to have cards that you would like to have in the graveyard as opposed to discard cards, and then also not having too many so that you don't brick and just end up drawing all of your cards that you want to discard, but you don't have any discard cards in general. So, you know, different things like discard traps, or even that card called Dark Core. It's a spell card that you discard a card and banish 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field, which is really, really nice. So, you know, it's a pretty interesting card. It's pretty, you know, different, a -1, but with this deck you can plus, because if you discard the Mizukis or discard the White Princes, you do end up plussing in the long run with different plays. So, as I said, that is it. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of the actual deck. Make sure to leave me a like, comment, subscribe, and I should catch you guys later. If you did go to YCS Prague, tell me how you did down in the description, or not the description, the comment section.